Okay, we are now live
Getting
streamed.
closer.
We'll be able to start the meeting as soon as the chair feels like we're ready. We've got two more mayors joining, so Chair West, we definitely have quorum.
Okay, well,
Yep.
that's good enough for me then. If we have quorum, we're going to begin. So I'd like to welcome everyone to today's public meeting of the Mayor's Council. And before we begin, I want to acknowledge with respect the Indigenous nations on whose treaty and unceded territories we're fortunate to live, work, and operate. With that, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, approval of the public meeting minutes of June 29th, 2023. They've
So
been
moved.
and seconded. Comments, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right, that'll take us down to public delegates. And there's one today. It will be William Dawson. And I see he's in the waiting room. So if we can admit him.
Just
All
join William. Mr. Dawson, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you and welcome. The floor is yours and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Hello, and thank you for having me this morning. I'm speaking today in response to the updated bus speed and reliability report recently released by TransLink. Our bus mode share is some of the highest in North America and has been recovering robustly from pandemic lows. However, the experience of taking the bus often falls short of what it could be due to delay and low speeds. This is often taken as a given, particularly in the case of local buses, but it need not be such as this report shows.
Charger, an iPad charger down there.
Sorry?
That's okay. We had some crosstalk. You can continue.
Yeah,
Say TransLink.
please proceed.
Given international best practices, there are a number of changes, some simple and some less so, that can be made by both TransLink and the various municipalities it serves. Many of these are highlighted in the report itself. On the part of TransLink, actions can be taken include the rollout of all-door boarding on all of its routes, and further expansions to the bus stop balancing program, among other things. All-door boarding is probably the easiest thing that can be done. It can be done tomorrow if necessary. Dwell time makes up almost a fifth of all time a bus spends on its route. Taking into account things like traffic light cycles, every second counts. A slow bus is an expensive bus to run. And any fare evasion from all-door boarding will be offset by the savings to be had by speeding up service, both in terms of reducing scheduling challenges and by increased ridership. The compass card readers are already in place, and the policy is already in place in express buses, including many of the heaviest used ones. There is no reason I can think of not to implement this policy. It will require practically zero changes to infrastructure. Another thing TransLink could do is consolidate bus stops and widen bus stop spacing on local services. I understand the political challenges of this, and that there are cases in which it would not be appropriate to remove stops for accessibility reasons. For the most part, the time savings to be had by removing lightly used stops and improving facilities such as benches and shelters at the others, as well as increasing spacing to more international standards to the tune of 300 to 400 meters would exceed the time lost getting the stops very quickly and benefit far more riders. This too can be done for little overhead costs, and I suggest that TransLink look into this further. There are other miscellaneous changes to be made by TransLink to speed up bus service, such as moving the compass car readers further away from the doors, or introducing off-board fare payments on the heaviest used routes, among others. There's much more that can be done by the municipalities represented at this council if they so desired. But doing so would require the active choice to support transit, even in the face of what will surely be strong opposition. I hope I can convince this council it would be the wise choice to make. To be blunt, the investments that could make the most difference would require municipalities to make deliberate efforts to prioritize transit over private motor vehicles. In many of the cities I have lived in, particularly in the United States, buses are seen less as a legitimate mode of transportation and more as a backstop for those with no other options. Metro Vancouver proves this need not be the case, especially with well-planned and well-integrated systems with buses or bus rail systems such as the SkyTrain. According to the Bus Speed and Reliability Report, bus users make up Over 30% of peak mode share on corridors such as 49th Avenue and Marine Drive, 40% on 41st Avenue and parts of Number 3 Road, over half in places like Broadway, Westbrook Mall, areas near Metrotown or Edmonds. This was data from 2021, mind you, and ridership recovery has only continued from there. This is mode share for transit in its current kneecapped state. It can be pushed higher and provide a better experience for its riders if the municipalities choose to take steps to prioritize it. This means things like signal priority, or the construction of level boarding on the most heavily used routes, the construction of bus bulbs to provide in-lane stops, or the installation of queue jumps, approach lanes, or dedicated bus lanes, preventing traffic from turning at certain intersections, or removing street parking to reduce conflict of vehicles coming in and out of the curb. Many of these changes would make certain aspects of driving private motor vehicles more difficult, and so would attract backlash. But I hope the members of this council will have the courage to implement them. The benefit of all road users, existing transit riders are having their trips sped up, new transit riders made by creating a more convenient service, and motorists due to those new riders not representing traffic on the road. Any loss in business activity due to removing street parking, I believe, would be offset by the higher throughput of people able to come in and out of commercial areas due to these improvements. In order to create a more vibrant, equitable, and easily navigable city.
William, I'll
sorry, cut you off. Sorry about that.
I'll just have to ask you to wrap up.
Sorry about that. I would suggest that TransLink and its constituent municipalities of Metro Vancouver begin implementing these policies as soon as practical. Thank you. Sorry for running over.
That's okay. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your presentation. All right, next item is a report from me as the chair, just a number of brief remarks. As you know, as part of a cabinet shuffle, we have a new Minister of Housing, Infrastructure, and Communities, the Honorable Sean Fraser from Nova Scotia, who is most recently Minister of Immigration. The Prime Minister has said that his cabinet shuffle is about aligning government around priorities such as the economy, affordability, and housing. That's good news for all of us because we know that those are our priorities here in British Columbia and Metro Vancouver. We hope that the Prime Minister is ready to get to work to turn these words into action. So we want to welcome Minister Fraser and look forward to getting to work with him because the growth pressures our region are facing are huge and growing every single day, and our residents expect fast action. We'll be back in Ottawa this fall to push for new funding commitments as Minister Fraser prepares to roll out the federal government's new infrastructure plan, and the Prime Minister and his cabinet prepared the 2024 federal budget. And of course, our own Access for Everyone campaign that we launched in May continues to engage our residents and key stakeholders in our efforts to bring Ottawa and Victoria on side to support our plan to begin rolling out new transit expansion plans next year. I want to close by noting again that Minister Fleming is already a close partner and has been instrumental in keeping our system going through the after effects of the pandemic and high inflation. And we thank Minister Fleming and the province for that. It's now time for Minister Fraser and the federal government to join us and work with us to shift towards building the system we need to plan for record-setting population growth in the future. And with that, I'll take a motion to receive the report. Moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under reports, we have an update on the 2023 bus speed and reliability report, and turn that over to Sarah Ross for a brief presentation.
Thank you very much. Joining me for this item today is Stephen Newhouse, the manager of bus speed and reliability, as well as Dan Freeman, who is the senior manager of bus priority programs and the project director for BRT. I'll open it up and then Stephen will spend a few moments on some slides that we have prepared. This to present on part 2 of our 2023 bus speed and reliability report, which was published last week. Reducing time buses spend stuck in traffic is important for really 2 key reasons. It's not an efficient use of resources, And sitting on a bus stuck in traffic makes it harder for people to get where they need to go and reduces the attractiveness of taking transit, as well described by this morning's delegate. This report documents the efforts we've made over the last few years and the travel time savings we've made. And we're pleased with the progress, but there's still much more to be done. And the majority, although certainly not all, of the most impactful interventions are outside of TransLink's control and fall within municipal or ministry authority. And we partner with municipalities on these transit priority improvements, and our team is currently in the process of making presentations to a number of municipal councils on this. And I'll pass it to Stephen to take us through a few slides.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you to the Mayor's Council for the opportunity to share this update on the second part of the bus speed and reliability report. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues, Peter Stair and Alan Shee, who led the development of this report. So building on our previous conversation about the impacts of delay, today I'm going to present an overview of the most recent bus priority infrastructure and the results of those projects, and talk about the opportunity for more bus priority investment in the region. And like Sarah said, this is important because bus delay is an expensive and ongoing challenge for both TransLink and our customers. And this report demonstrates the effectiveness of bus priority measures at improving people's travel times and reducing our operating costs. It demonstrates the need to increase the scale and the pace of new bus priority, and it's going to help us work together with municipalities and the ministry to target future bus priority investments where they'll be most impactful. So we can go to the next slide. So over the course of the next few slides, I'll cover the background and context for this report. I won't go through these in detail, but I'll just remind us of a few key points. Next slide. First is that we care about bus delay because it affects most of our customers. In fact, the buses carry twice as many people as all other transit modes combined. And so the speed and reliability of these trips has a direct impact on the lives of people in our communities, as well as a direct impact on the cost and the amount of service that we can provide. Next slide. Second, like Sarah said, delay is concentrated on the network. We know that 80% of the passenger delay is on the frequent transit network, and about 40% of the delay is concentrated on less than 10% of the network. So that suggests that strategic bus priority investments can allow us to address the most delay experienced by customers, and those investments are needed across the entire region. Next slide. Third, buses carry 30 to 60% of the people traveling on many of the key corridors in our region. So providing faster, more reliable buses supports the goal of Transport 2050 of making transportation more convenient, more reliable, more affordable, more safe and comfortable, and carbon-free. And in fact, the 10-year plan aims to expand some form of bus priority across the full frequent transit network. So this is just a quick reminder of why it's so important for our buses to be faster and more reliable. And next, I'll move on to share some of the results of the recent bus priority infrastructure. So we have witnessed a historic expansion of bus priority in the region, rivaling the investments ahead of the 2010 Olympics. Since 2019, TransLink has invested almost $40 million in bus priority, and as a result, the region has increased the amount of bus priority infrastructure by more than 40% across the region. Next slide. That bus priority infrastructure has proven to be very cost effective. It's reduced delay for our customers by up to 35% in the locations where it's built. And when we can reinvest that time into our schedules, it allows us to yield a return on investment within less than 10 years. And it's also important to remember that as these savings accrue, or that these savings continue to accrue even after that payback period. Next slide. In particular, Rapid Bus has been very effective. The 3 routes where we had new transit priority are more than 20% faster than the previous local service, and that's saving our customers 12 to 28 minutes per trip during the busiest times of day. And that is really impactful savings for our customers. And I just want to think about that for a moment. Imagine if your commute was 12 to 28 minutes shorter every day. Next slide. One of the reasons that Rapid Bus has been so successful is because the bus priority measures were delivered at scale across the entire corridor. Customers and TransLink accrue the most benefits when priority measures are focused along a corridor like Rapid Bus or bus stop balancing. And those faster, more reliable buses support more efficient schedules, reduce the need to add resources in the future due to increasing traffic, and they allow us to expand service. So these are a lot of reasons of how and why we know bus priority is effective. The next part of the report goes into where is bus priority needed. So as I mentioned, Transport 2050's 10-year priorities aims to expand bus priority across the full frequent transit network. But we discovered that less than 25% of the frequent transit network has any form of bus priority, and only about 7% of the frequent transit network has all-day bus priority infrastructure. So in other words, transit customers may be delayed by traffic on about 700 kilometers of the network during some or all of the day. Next slide. And there are opportunities to provide more bus priority in every subregion. And this is an opportunity to improve the access and the mobility for the people who live, work, learn, and play in our communities. So now that we understand the scale of the need, how do we move forward? Next slide. So as demonstrated, bus priority is most effective when it's delivered at the corridor scale. These investments achieve the most significant travel times and cost savings, which can be reinvested into better service. This underscores the importance of focusing on bus priority on the frequent transit network, especially the future BRT corridors. These corridors are key. They account for about 30% of the person delay and cover about a quarter of the frequent transit network. But we shouldn't forget about the other 70% of person delay on the other 3/4 of the network. Next slide. So to increase the scale and the pace of bus priority measures, we will help our partners focus on corridors. And this includes developing a bus priority vision to confirm the priority corridors and the level of investment needed to speed up those buses. And we will also propose options for expansion of the BSR program, the municipal funding program that provides for bus speed and reliability improvements. And this will be a consideration for the 2024-2025 investment plans. Final slide. So as a reminder, the existing bus speed and reliability program supports municipalities in developing bus priority measures. This fall, we have more than $8 million available for bus priority projects on the frequent transit network. Our staff will continue to provide technical support, including project planning, design, and engagement. And as municipal leaders, you can help by supporting the program by encouraging staff to apply for ambitious corridor scale projects. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take your questions.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, a motion. Oh, pardon me, Councillor Asmundson.
Yeah, thank you. A great update on this. When I look at the report, we've got 8 million for frequent transit network. And I guess while we're looking at the bus rapid transit, which are major corridors looking for improvements, most of the expansion or funding is into the already expanded areas of Vancouver and different areas. But I'd like to see a focus also on the areas that are not transit frequent networks, but in the developing areas or the areas where we're looking at a 50% increase in our bus service, we're targeting the eastern regions. I'd like to see a program where we're getting ahead of the game on putting in queue jumpers and priority measures. So when the volumes do increase in those areas, that we're ahead of the game, investing in those rather than getting the development happening coming in later. I'd like us to be quite a bit ahead on that. And the second question I have is always about just not on frequent transit networks are the priority, but light signalization and working with cities. I know we want to put in crosswalks and more crosswalks for people to cross busy streets, but we've got to make sure that those lights signalize, because yes, at major intersections, you're going to have problems and delays, but if you can manage the lights in between those major intersection points and speed up travel through there, it'll make a benefit on our reliability. So just a couple comments. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I appreciate it.
Very much. Thank you. Seeing no further comments, motion to receive the report.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that'll just bring us down to other business. I'll just note that our next meeting will be in person on September 28th, back at the Metro Vancouver office, and wishing everyone a very good summer break. Motion to adjourn. Move, second. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay, we'll just need, I believe, about 5 minutes to switch over to the closed